Hello and welcome to another edition for the Love of Emails webinar. This is where we discuss some non-obvious email marketing trends that marketers need to watch out for in 2022. Introducing myself first. Hi everyone, I'm Tejas Pitkar, Senior Product Evangelist at Netco Cloud. And we have a very special guest joining us today for this year-end discussion, all the way from the States in the night. This is Chris Marriott. Yeah, this is Chris Marriott, founder and president of Email Connect. He brings decades of digital marketing and vendor selection experience to help Fortune 500 companies connect with the right marketing technology solutions for email as well as multi-channel marketing. So I'll say good evening to you and welcome to the webinar, Chris.
Really happy to be here and was delighted to get the invitation, Tejas. And folks, we had a pre-meeting 12 hours ago, which was my morning and Tejas's evening. And as we were signing off, he said, "I'll see you tomorrow." And I said, "No, it's not going to be tomorrow for me. It's going to just be 12 hours from now." So, I know we have people logging in from all over the globe. It's morning somewhere, it's evening somewhere. Don't hate me because I'm having a little bit of wine because it is evening here.
Perfectly all right, Chris. The world is a really big place. Yeah. It's a really big pleasure to have you here. Now, folks, when it comes to email marketing, 2021 was a bit of a roller coaster ride. In the past year, email has taken really great leaps with some interactivity introduced in emails. There were AI-powered intelligent emails that brands started sending out. Several of our high-profile global companies that we consult with started using our AI technologies to send their emails. There were several high-profile ESP mergers and acquisitions that took place. Gmail, the biggest mailbox provider right now in the world, announced its full support for the BIMI standard. Brands started introducing interactivity as well as using AMP for emails. It's a gradual increase that we see with brands using those technologies. And there was also the small matter of the Apple mail privacy protection that sent shockwaves throughout the email industry, with the pixel blocking regulations, which are slowly going to make open rates obsolete. Or you can say, at least right now, they are unreliable. So now we'll be taking on 2022 in the next year. And in this webinar, we wish to decode the email marketing patterns that we have seen developing for the next year, so that you guys can help stay ahead of the curve and you can anticipate and plan for those changes which will be coming up. So I'll be going through some of the 5 non-obvious email trends that we have in this presentation. And I'll be going back and forth with Chris about all of them, and we'll be having a conversation about what are his views and thoughts on the same, what are the other trends that he sees developing in the next year, so that you can plan your email programs better. So let's dig into them. The first trend that we see is that interactive storytelling and gamification inside your emails is going to matter a lot more than the technologies that are used. Now, we all know that storytelling is very powerful. Powerful stories are what keeps your audience hooked to your emails. I myself read really long emails as well, written by YouTube influencers or other email influencers, which are just texty and wordy, but they have a story inside them. They have a narrative. And that's the reason why I scroll all the way down in order to read them. You get excited when you're reading through a story. You don't wish to live midway. Now, your email should not only be about just your promotions and offers and sales pitches. And that's what we think that, you should be able to communicate via story to your audience, what makes your brand unique. And that's going to be very important in the next year. Now, the pandemic has already forced brands and companies to reevaluate the whole marketing strategies since the last 2 years now. And they're offering solutions to the customers. Instead of just pitching sales offers one after the other and sending like 5 emails in a week, all with promotions offers, that's not going to do much for you in the coming year. So as I said, I think, I'm subscribed to a lot of good newsletters from influencers who somehow weave their products and services inside the stories. They write long emails, yes, but really interesting stories, maybe about the life or about the experiences. And that's what companies should follow as well in terms of communicating more about their mission statement, and weaving good narratives and stories around the emails in the next year. Now, of course, you can use AMP for emails and technologies like that in order to make it more interactive, like introduce polls, surveys, quizzes, get your customer reviews inside the inbox. But more often than not, it's going to be really good content worthy emails that are going to make all the difference in the coming year. For example, there was a recent campaign, Chris, that I saw from Airbnb, which is the Live There campaign, where they say, don't go to Paris, don't take a tour to Paris, live in Paris, which means that, they want their customers to actually experience the local, the local culture wherever they go. And it's not just about taking a trip, it's about living in that place. And I think they've weaved really nicely a lot of stories inside the email campaigns regarding just this hashtag of live there. And I really like that. It's stories like this which are going to be super powerful. But Chris, coming back to you, just in terms of AMP for emails, now we recently had some experts in the OI community as well, which wrote on AMP for emails saying, maybe it's fading away. It's a bit slow in adoption. We don't see a lot of brands using interactivity in emails. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's going to take off in 2022? It's going to slightly die down?
No, I actually love this, and I think is a great trend to kick off with, because I think I couldn't agree with you more that technology is less important than interactive storytelling. A lot of whiz bang technology that gets unveiled and unrolled by the vendors, and I work with a lot of vendors, never really even gets leveraged by brands. And things like AMP, I think, are just the latest example of things that are rolling out, and brands are struggling with, and email marketers are struggling with the tech they already have, and maximizing that. But to your point about how storytelling will matter more than tech, a couple of things I would say that. One is, oftentimes brands, the last thing they blame if their program's not achieving the goals they'd like to achieve is their creative, is their content. And yet sometimes you're not achieving your goals because your creative and your content stinks. And that needs to have as much attention as maximizing the technology. And the other thing that I really like about this one is you made a great point, is the idea that you need to engage. If every email you send to a customer is a buy now email, they're over, it won't take them too long to disengage and start ignoring your email marketing. There's some brands that might be appropriate, but the vast majority of brands, every email shouldn't be a buy now email. So the trick is, how do you engage them in between the purchases, in between when you hit them? What kind of content, what kind of context do you give them? What kind of storytelling? Again, I think as you said, I think brands that focus on that are brands that are going to probably see more success in 2022 than brands that ignore that.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely that conversations have to take precedence over your conversions, which has pretty much been the case throughout the lockdown. But yeah, totally. I mean, I think the kind of newsletters that I always engage with are those which make some kind of interactive end to it. For example, maybe a lot of influencers use this in the newsletters, where they take a poll at the very end of the email and they ask you some question. You either have to reply to it, or you have to go to that poll, take it, and maybe you can get to know the results in the next email. And I think these are some really good techniques that even companies can start using, rather than we always get those a very customary feedback emails. So how was your did you like your product? Would you like to let us know how it went, and how did you feel about it? But I think these are very preliminary emails. I think they need to get more creative in terms of getting those reactions from the audience. What do you think about that?
I think most of us, the only time we ever respond to a tell us what you think is when we had an awful experience and we want to complain about it. At least I know that's what I do. I rarely would respond and say, "Oh, it was great." So I agree with that, and I think you said conversations, and I think content, context, and conversations are like the three C's of how you again engage in storytelling and dialogue in between those purchases. By context, I mean, how-tos on how to use, how to get the best out of something they just bought, or how to use it in ways that they hadn't even considered before. I think context is very important, particularly in certain categories. Again, I want to say technology never made anybody open an email, and everybody out there in the AI world is going, we beg to differ. Our subject line testing is technology, and it's making people open emails. So, okay, you got me there. But in general, long term, I don't think that technology has a big an impact on getting emails read and engaged with than does, again, the interactive storytelling and the content of the email.
Right, definitely. Storytelling trumps that every time. Now, coming to the second trend that we have, and I mean, we recently spoke about the Apple MPP changes that have come out. Mail privacy protection has clearly shifted the focus from user privacy just with your audience, but now it's been taken seriously by the mailbox providers as well. And now they're employing certain regulations to protect their users from needless marketing material. They need to make their own choices about whether they wish to show their interaction data to the marketeers or not. So I feel that marketeers in 2022 will have to go above and beyond the basic data privacy laws that have been provided, like you have a CSL, you have a GDPR, you have a CCPA, and of course the CAN spam. But they should also need to start following regional guidelines and laws pertaining to the data. And I think actively communicate about your data privacy restrictions, your guidelines that you're following actively with your customers. I think that's going to inspire a lot of loyalty and security over there from their end. Like for example, I mean, even we do this with a newsletter where you provide a physical mailing address or contact number of your company below your newsletter, so that even when you're sending it to your global customers, they have some kind of physical mailing address to attach your company to, and that's going to be very important because the customer today, I think, has become very smart, and they can read about Apple MPP and its features and the kind of power it gives them, and they can try to make the right decisions on their own. So it's going to be very crucial for marketeers to consider user privacy, and they have to keep it central before making any of the decisions. Chris, coming back to you, I mean, being in the vendor landscape, do you think that companies are evaluating ESPs right now in terms of, okay, what are they doing in terms of Apple MPP? What is the kind of interaction data they are collecting, and then choosing those ESPs, or how's it going over there?
We take the whole privacy and data security issue extremely seriously when we're helping our clients who are email marketers and brands evaluate platforms, and we have a lot of requirements pertaining to data security, data access, and compliance with, as you said, regional and national privacy laws. So again, I think the onus here is very much on the brand and the ESP they select in to ensure privacy, because I think it really, from a consumer perspective, I honestly, and there are probably a lot of people are going to go, oh, that's not, oh, he's wrong, that's not right. But I think consumers rarely care about data security and privacy until a brand they deal with has a data breach. So the most important thing to advise everybody out there, email marketers and vendors, is no data breaches. That's the number one. Don't let any of their data don't get compromised. And again, I like your best practices mailing address. I think it's a good idea. Going above and beyond, as you said, is a good idea. But I think privacy is less of a consumer issue, particularly around their engagement and activity with email, than it is an issue of vendors needing to be extra vigilant and have the security procedures in place, and brands doing the right thing and choosing the right vendors to match their data security needs.
Right. I think recently there was some kind of a legal issue where a subscriber had filed a complaint against a major company that he still received newsletters from them even though he had unsubscribed, and
Yeah.
they still kept on asking them for some kind of a promotional material so that they can opt back into the newsletter program. And I think it's practices like these which are very non-ethical and can get a company into trouble in the coming year very easily with very heavy fines.
Yeah, I mean, right. If you're a brand, you got to take an unsubscribe seriously, and and ideally, that person's in a suppression list instantly, and it's a universal suppression list, and every campaign that goes out checks against that list, and they never get one again. And that's not something to monkey around with. Totally agree there. And you're right. The fines will go up because, frankly, there are people out there looking for a brand to violate that so they can sue them. There's lawyers out there doing that. So they're looking for opportunities to do this. It's not Joe Consumer, frankly, when these things happen, who just, oh, well, I unsubscribed and a week later I'm getting an email. No, it's people that are on the lookout for violations to make a quick buck. And again, that's why I think vendors and brands need to be on their toes and to strictly, I mean, not only is it the right thing to do to follow all of these rules and regulations and opt out and forget me and all of that's absolutely, it's the right thing to do, but it's also the smart, fiscally sound thing to do, to your point.
Yeah. I mean, we all talk about these things, but it's a fact that even now, buying of email lists is very common still in the industry. And I think it's unethical practices like this that can get a company easily into trouble. Even though it's like a small list of 500 users, you send them an email thinking of some kind of a referral program or trying to get them to opt in actually to your program. Could be trouble. Could be trouble in the next year.
Yeah, brands. I mean, enterprise brands aren't going to do that. Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 are not going to do that. But you're right. There are brands, that want to grow quickly. And, my advice is, put in the hard work to grow your list the right way. To your point, don't. And it is hard work, but it's worth it. And never put anybody. I used to do a lot of work with a company that was in the email subscriber acquisition business for brands, and very legit the way they did it. And I used to tell, my advice to brands was, don't ever put anybody on your email list that you aren't 100% sure wants to be there. Follow that simple rule and you'll never get in trouble. You just make sure that 100%. And what does that mean? Well, that means they actually opted in somewhere and you have a record of that opt-in. And if you have that and they opted in, everybody's good. But if you buy a list or you rent a list, you don't have that. And that's where, again, you get in trouble. And if you're not following these rules that we're talking about, you're eventually, forget the fact that you might get in legal trouble or financial trouble. You're going to get blocked eventually. You're going to get blocked, and none of your email is going to get in. And so, do the hard work, grow your list the right way, get real opt-ins, get people who want to be there. It will pay off over time.
Absolutely. That's great advice, because email is, after all, a very direct one-to-one channel, and no one will subscribe to your newsletter if they don't wish to get your content. So,
right. And why would you want to send it to somebody who doesn't want to get it? Who's going to, again, we're as you said earlier, we're talking about conversations. Well, if you don't want to talk to me, we can't have a conversation. So there's why waste time?
Yeah, absolutely right. These are some of the things that marketers will have to keep in mind in the next year. Going to the third trend, and this is a big one, where I see that, we are all observing right now that the pandemic had a very disruptive effect on customer retention and loyalty and acquisition. Now, customer lifetime value has quickly become a North Star metric for someone like a marketer in the e-commerce space in the past 2 years. And in my opinion, this approach of retaining high value customers for the longer term is going to assume a really big paramount role in the coming year, where email can play a very major role here in order to retain those customers via your email program. So now, a recent research by Gartner showed that 39% of global CMOs think that they need to increase the sales of their current products with their existing customers, maybe by cross-selling and by using other marketing channels. So marketers will care more, a bit, not just about who are the best customers right now, but who will be the most valued customers, say, 2 or 5 years down the line. For example, if an existing customer is spending, say, $500 on their e-commerce store, then what is their potential to spend something like a $20,000 in the next 2 years? They will be evaluating customers based on the average order value, and who are those high value customers and who are the customers that maybe they need to churn out, or they're not providing that kind of value right now. So these are the kind of questions that I think that marketers are going to find very interesting to solve in the coming year. And they could use big data and machine learning and AI algorithms for all of these, solving these bigger issues. So, I mean, in terms of customer loyalty, Chris, you have written a lot on it, you've spoken a lot on it. I'm directly
Yep.
quoting you from your Only Influencers blog, which was "Loyalty programs are the next secret weapon for email marketers," where you have said, "But in an era where I said earlier, first and zero party data are rising in importance for marketers, perhaps this is the time for email marketing team to ask, how can the loyalty program benefit my email marketing?" So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you just gave all my thoughts. No, just kidding. This is one of those where I think you and I had, as we talked earlier, there was a lot of overlap. Couldn't agree more with everything you said, with everything you put here. I have my four things that are trends impacting the vendor landscape, and you have the five that we're talking about now, that email marketing, and this is one of the big overlaps where, as we talked about, where, to your point, and I've written a lot about it, where I think the importance of that email marketing and loyalty marketing are becoming much more closely aligned, or if not, should be much more closely aligned at the enterprise level for the reasons you stated. Third-party data is going away. First-party data and zero-party data are growing in importance. And I like to say, and we talked about earlier, importance of storytelling and content. So, it's become a cliche to say content is king, and we've all probably heard that statement at one time or another. If that's true, and I'm not, it probably is. We just said it was important. Then I would say first and zero party data are king, kingdom, and cathedral. They're that important and growing in importance to brands. And okay, so what does that have to do with loyalty? Where do brands get their first and zero party data? From their loyalty programs. That is the gold mine of first and zero party data. And that's why, but you obviously believe, and I believe as well, that not only loyalty programs just important on the surface of it because it's repeat business. And of course you want a loyalty program that people want to be in versus one that they have to be in. So there's that at work, but for too long, email marketers have just been a channel for the loyalty program to deliver its messaging to loyalty customers. And I think, as you said, as I wrote, it's time for the email team to say to the loyalty team, what do you got? What kind of data do you got that I'm not using currently to personalize and customize my ongoing campaigns? Not just the loyalty email, here's your monthly points total, but rather, what do you have that I can use on an ongoing basis to make my emails more relevant, more engaging to the people that are getting them? And what, from the vendor perspective, what I'm seeing is many enterprise vendors are either acquiring loyalty platforms that they're integrating in, or they're building out loyalty capabilities. So this is really an area where the vendor landscape as well is reacting to this trend and saying, we need to, from a platform perspective, be able to provide a turnkey solution for our customers who maybe don't already have a loyalty solution, or potentially don't even have a loyalty program. And brands, if you don't have a loyalty program, to Tejas' point, you need to start thinking about that. If you already have an email program, you don't have a loyalty program, time to give somebody the assignment to start a loyalty program at your organization.
Definitely. I think loyalty programs provide a better brand experience, uh, really great customer service to those loyal customers as well. You can also have tailored emails. This is where email marketing comes into play, as you say. You can have those tailored emails to those select segment of customers who are very important for your retention. They're high value customers. They have really high average order values. They have been spending a lot with you for the last 2 3 years, and you need to keep them. So I think loyalty programs and communicating about them through email is going to be super important for marketers in the next year to drive the revenue. Because acquisition has been a bit down, retention has become the new acquisition now. So, I think that
Love that.
marketers will
Yes,
have,
love that.
yeah. So I think,
Retention's the new acquisition. You're absolutely right. Nice.
absolutely. And I think marketers
Hashtag
will have to
retention is the
pay.
new acquisition.
Yeah, it's been that way, right? Since the pandemic has happened
Yeah,
and acquisitions kind of slowed down. So it's very important for marketers to gain a 360-degree understanding of what is going to drive their retention and accurately estimate every customer's value. And that's where you said, I think you said in the blog as well that right now there could be two separate teams within your
right.
organization, one which is dealing
Yeah,
with loyalty programs only, and one which is your email marketing team. And I think both of them need to come together, at least communicate in order to find out, okay, what's your database right now talking about this customer because we are targeting this content to this customer right now. What's that extra information that you can give us? And
right.
I think this, yeah,
Yeah,
has
I
to
mean,
be,
if you're an email marketer and you've got a loyalty team that's separate from you, invite them out to pizza and beer and make friends with them and start talking to them because another thing I was thinking about, Tejas, is one of the last types of emails on the planet somebody is going to unsubscribe to is anything to do with the loyalty program that they want to be part of. And so those are very bulletproof emails, highly engaged, probably the highest engagement rates outside of transactional emails would be emails related to loyalty, and certainly low unsubscribe rates. So again, take your loyalty team, either start one and get a lot of
yeah,
credit for saving your company, or find out who the movers and shakers are on your loyalty team, invite them out for pizza and beer, and start making friends with them.
absolutely. It's going
Who
to be
doesn't like
super
pizza and
important.
beer? I mean, come on.
Right, definitely. Uh, Now, the fourth trend, and this kind of ties in with the last trend that you talked about, zero party
Yep.
data, that it's going to be, the kingdom the next year. So, with Apple MPP changes, definitely some part of your interaction data is going to be unreliable now. Your subscriber engagement data is not going to be foolproof. I mean, Apple MPP's effects are going to gradually increase in the next year. It's not that much right now on that level that we even see at Netcore, maybe 12 to 13% of our opens are coming from proxy Apple opens, but it's going to gradually increase. And when it fully takes off in full steam, that's when marketers are going to be in a little bit of fix that, oh, well, we had a lot of interaction engagement data till now. We relied a lot on it in order to target our customers, to create segmentation, to pitch different or cross sale products to our customers. Now we don't have that anymore. What can we do right now? So with zero party data, it's just a little bit of an introduction to the audience with what is zero party data. Zero party data is the kind of information that you get from your customers, which is shared willingly by them. It's either your subscription center, your preference center on your website, or it's some kind of surveys or polls that you run through them and you're trying to get that information from them. So this is willingly shared by the customers. They're comfortable sharing this personal information with you. It's not interaction or engagement data. That is the first party data that you're getting. So, marketers can continue to have access to such valuable customer data if they evolve their strategies of data collection of the zero party data. So, I mean, of course, as I said, there are several ways to do it. I think progressive profiling is going to be a major part of how marketers are going to gain access to this data in the coming year, Chris. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you make a good point here, that getting zero party data isn't dependent entirely upon loyalty programs. There are other ways to get it, of engaging your customers. Again, sometimes the results are not anywhere near as expected. Again, having people do surveys or quizzes or social media polls, it can be a hit or miss proposition in terms of what information they want to give up. But I think it still is, it's worth the effort. But I also think you need to make sure that you have a vendor, if you're a brand, that you are working with a vendor that can store lots of data, can bring data in from a lot of different data sources, have an unlimited number of attributes that they can store in the database about that customer. So when you're getting the zero party data, that your ESP is able to personalize using whatever data is available in about that customer in the database. So collecting data that you can't use is a waste of everybody's time. And so you really need to make sure that what you are collecting is usable in your email marketing, ideally, and can be stored at the ESP level, so it's right there available for in real time for marketing campaigns.
We're just getting some questions right now. I'm going to take one because this is very relevant to the conversation we're having. One of them says, how can email leverage loyalty programs to collect better zero-party subscriber data? Like, what kind of data can you actually get from your loyalty programs in order to use it to target your customers better?
I think you need to start with, it's a good question, but I think the starting point is you need to realize what sort of gaps in the data you have now are. Your loyalty program, I mean, you might look at the data they have and go, oh, aha, here's something I never even thought about, which would be very valuable. So that could happen. But also you need to think about what kind of things could make your email more personalized, more engaging. Again, what are your gaps in your knowledge about your audience that potentially could be something that your loyalty programs communications could uncover? Because when you're, there could be, let's talk about a mileage program. People will go through a lot of hoops to earn miles. And so if you were offering loyalty program subscriber, a certain number of miles for answering a few questions, they're going to answer them. So, the rewards that come with loyalty programs, I mean, I'll answer stupid stuff. I mean, I've answered stupid from my pharmacy. I answered a stupid quiz. I gave a ton of information to get some more discounts. Yes, I did that. Actually, I did that. So, again, that was, and it was because there was a real value exchange. And your loyalty program is again, where the value lies that can be exchanged. You have very little as an email marketer value that you can exchange, but your loyalty program has lots of it. And so again, I can't tell you what you need to what you need to know that your loyalty program can help you get. You're going to have to determine that, but then you can leverage your loyalty program's ability to give something of value to get that information from your subscribers.
Right. I think you mentioned an airline rewards program in your writing about loyalty programs, and I think that is very relevant here. But maybe you can get some data from that loyalty program as to which destinations is this customer often traveling to, and then maybe use that to target better deals to them in your email program. I mean, that's one kind of example that I can think of where you can actually use email in conjunction with your loyalty program to get better deals.
It's interesting there, Tejas. I had a client once when I was on the vendor side, and they were a hotel company, and we there's danger in misinterpreting data, and I don't, and you just gave me a good example of that. And here they were looking at where these people booked hotels, and so they were sending them offers for the same location because as they interpreted the data, these people like to vacation in warm weather climates. When they dug a little deeper and did some testing, what they learned was they like to golf. And so now they could have a whole different range of destinations to entice them to potentially book. Bookings went up. And so it is, in that case, it was a question of not just, it was why they traveled, not just where they traveled. And that's, as you're looking through the data and thinking about what's usable and how to use it, make sure you ask all of the relevant questions, not just, Don't just stop with one question. Where are they going? Okay, that's obviously what they like.
Absolutely. I think I just read it on Twitter yesterday where an email marketer had posted this tweet that, just don't try to get feedback from your customers for the sake of interactivity or getting replies. You need to know what kind of questions you're asking, what kind of data do you actually wish to receive from those customers, and then only go ahead with, taking those surveys or asking those relevant questions and getting some important customer information. So always
Yeah.
have that target in mind as to how you're going to use this data before asking those questions. And that's a good point.
Yeah,
Definitely.
because so oftentimes you see brands collecting all this data, and data that you don't use is really just overhead. You're paying somebody somewhere to store it, and
Yeah.
and that doesn't
And you're
do
wasting
anybody
your
any
email
good.
time in the process. I mean, you're
Yeah,
not getting anything valuable in it in return.
I mean, we've all done
Definitely.
it. We've all moved. Well, maybe not all of us, but many. If you've ever moved from one house to another, when you move, you find all these boxes of stuff that you didn't ever remember even putting it in a box and putting it where you put it. That's what companies do with data. They put it in a box, they put it somewhere, and unless you move your database, you're just, again, it's just storing and sitting there and gathering dust, and that doesn't do anybody any good. And trust me, brands, consumers know, if you ask me a question and you don't use that information to make my experience better,
Yeah.
I'm never going to answer another question again.
Yeah. Because there's no use. Definitely.
Don't, yeah,
And
don't ask any consumer anything about anything that you don't plan to actually leverage in to make their customer experience with your company better.
right. Absolutely. Now, this trend of loyalty programs becoming really hot next year was actually started by Chris on the Only Influencers blog back in August, I think. That's when your blog
Exactly.
went
I think I
live.
was the first one. Yeah, it's good
Yeah,
to
you
be
can take
first
the
sometimes.
credit for that. Yeah.
Tejas, sometimes I get lucky. I get a date from Gene Jennings, who runs Only Influencers, and I got to come up with something, and I got lucky. I was the first one to sort of start talking about that. But I won't be the last, and lots of smart people have weighed in on that since then.
Definitely. And I think they're definitely going to become hot the next year. They're an excellent way to receive such zero party information. And I hope email marketers can make the best out of it. I mean, you're going to require a lot of data analysis in the process. You have to go through all that data that you have received from the loyalty programs, from your feedbacks, from your surveys, but hope that you can make it and put it to better use.
Yeah.
That's the intention of it. Going to the last trend that we have, which is a bit non obvious, is that marketers are going to embrace AI and intelligent emails to elevate the customer experience. Now, we know that in 2021 itself, I think AI technologies in email marketing have really taken off. They've become super sophisticated. Chris, you talked about this new next gen platforms that have come in who have some kind
Yeah.
of AI or intelligent features in them, which is going to help marketers to target the customers, the right user at the right time with the right content. That's what you need in the end. And marketers' dependencies on this intelligent technologies is just set to increase the next year. Because I mean, let's look at it. If you want to target your customers with different product recommendations, which are very customized to those individuals, you can't do that manually. There needs to be an automated feature in your sending platform, some intelligent brain that's working behind, who gives you all that information on a plate and says, okay, this customer, you need to target this product to them because they have shown an interest or a lot of uh, engagement related to this product. They've been surfing this product on your website, or they have viewed this product in your add to cart feature. So maybe this is the right product for them. But to do this for 1 million customers is going to be really time consuming for marketers. And I think that's where AI comes in and makes it really easy within minutes for you to target them. I mean, there are, of course, other, advantages of AI. For example, our study of 50 billion emails, 2020 email benchmark report showed that even delivery features that we have developed at Netcore, which have AI element in them, they have increased delivery of a global client by almost 50%. Now that's almost 50% extra emails that you're putting inside the customer's inbox, and they will be able to see, and you're getting conversions from them, you're getting engagement from them. So that helps a lot. That's a huge boost for any marketer. I mean, right now, AI can do everything from, crafting engaging subject lines for you within minutes based on what kind of keywords have performed better for you in the past. They can personalize content for each individual. Now, Chris, you must be knowing that there are separate personalization platforms that have come in, which maybe some ESPs have also acquired in order to personalize, recommendations to customers, not just on email, but on, say, your apps, your website. All of these things have also come in where AI is playing a part, targeting users with high impact content. So, my question to you, Chris, is, where do you see this whole AI in email marketing? Is it going to increase the next year? Where do you see in the vendor landscape that are customers evaluating ESPs based on, the AI features? Is it a big plus to have right now?
I think there's a lot of disillusionment among brands. They've been hearing about AI for years, and the impact that AI has made up to this point, I think, is extremely limited. And much of the focus has been on, to your point, subject line testing as a primary function of it. I have seen, however, in RFPs we've run, where AI is becoming much more sophisticated, particularly in the retail, e-commerce and retail space, where there's identifying both buying behaviors, propensity to buy, next best item to offer. I think 2022 is going to be the year where AI finally begins to make its mark and be less of an aspiration, and to your point, more of something that marketers embrace. Now it's not easy, because again, if you're going to be doing these propensity models and churn models and those types of things, that AI is going to have a lot of information coming. There's a lot of data points that are going to need to feed the beast. It's not as simple as giving it 10 subject lines to test. So from a standpoint of, this is something that I see, particularly brands that are moving from one vendor to another. As they in that migration process, I see the lever. I predict that the AI will become much, if you've been with a brand 5 years and it's entrenched in terms of what's happening, the possibility that you'll make all the connections necessary to absolutely out of the start leveraging AI, I think is kind of limited. You get kind of in a routine. But again, I think for brands looking at new ESPs, this is going to become much more part of the evaluation process. And I think for brands that have undergone or undergoing a migration, setting it up for success with AI in these areas is going to become a primary objective. So again, I think 2022 is a year we'll finally see AI begin to be less of an aspiration or a disappointment, and become something that is a powerful new tool for email marketers.
Definitely. And that's our AI assistant Brahman on the screen there in the middle, who helps us to structure the data according to propensity models and different buying behaviors, and can actually create, now AI tools can actually create these predictive segments based on, the past interaction. It could be past buying behaviors, a past even web browsing behaviors that, these are the right set of customers that get this content right now.
That's what I really like, Tejas. That's one of the areas I think where I've seen AI having real potential is, again, creating, instead of the individual sitting there and creating segments, having the AI create segments. I think there's a huge, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't and I should have, but I think that is a huge opportunity for AI to really begin to impact the performance of email campaigns.
Definitely. I mean, if you look at it right now, if you don't have an AI feature and you're trying to create a segment for email marketers, it's going to be about, okay, who has been opening or clicking our emails in the past 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But what about their propensity to buy something from you, the products that you're going to pitch in your email campaign? Do you know about them? And can you automate it for millions of customers? I think that's going to reduce a lot of workload for marketers. Because right now on our platform, when I try to create a newsletter and I wish to know what are the right segments to hit, I already have them, within minutes
Yep.
at my fingertips. And I know that these are the right segments and they always provide us with the right engagement and really high click rates. So I think these are the kind of automated tasks that AI can take away from marketeers so that marketers can focus on the big picture stuff, more analytical tasks that they have, and forget about the day to day, tasks of email campaigns. And that's what AI can make really easy for them. So
Yep.
definitely that's one. Uh, Now taking some questions on the side. There's one that we probably touched on during our conversation, but I just want to bring it again, is that should my ESP help me in accessing zero party data? Should they be consulting me in, getting more access to zero party data from the customers? What do you think?
It really depends upon the ESP you have. There are certain ESPs that consider themselves technology platforms and technology companies, and you're not going to get any kind of help from them. There's others that consider themselves, services and platforms. And if you've got one of those as an ESP, there are probably people there who are thinking about that already. And whether you have yet engaged with them or not, they're there and I would imagine ready to engage. I know Netcore has people that can do that. So really, it's a question of who you're with now. And if you're thinking about switching, that's a legitimate thing. People don't think about those types of services until they need them. And you need to think about those types of things because that's a strategic engagement. It's advice in terms of coming from your ESP for your program. And you can't expect that from a vendor that you didn't choose for anything other than a technology platform.
Definitely. Yeah. There's another question here where, it could be a bit unrelated to the trends part, but it's definitely affecting the trends for the next year. Is will Apple's MPP be a huge challenge for marketers to measure their email programs correctly in 2022?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think that there has been over reliance on open page anyway till now. And I think marketers are already pivoting to other performance metrics in September since the iOS 15 has launched. So I think they will be able to measure the programs more accurately if they depend on other metrics because of Apple MPP. So I think in a way Apple MPP was a good thing that happened rather than something that has that they were saying that the sky is falling or email is going to be dead very soon.
Yeah. Well, what cracks me up, and it's so typical of our industry, is for years people like you and I were saying open rates are a very bad metric to judge a healthier program. Don't do open rates. Do something else. Do conversions. Do revenue per email. Do any other thing. Don't ignore them. Suddenly they go away, and the same people, not you and I, are saying, "Oh, the sky is falling. I can't believe we don't know open rates anymore." Am I happy they've gone away? No, I think it stinks. I think it was a metric. It was a vanity metric, but it was a metric, and it shouldn't have been the primary metric. But I do think it stinks, and I think that Apple did it not to protect consumer privacy. What do they care if you know that they opened an email? It's just their motivations were not concerned for their customer. That's just their marketing program at work. So again, I think it's not going to kill email. It's going to make things a little harder to measure. How do you know if somebody's engaged or not? Because we all talk about engagement and unengaged and inactive customers, and that makes that harder. But we'll figure it out. We always do.
Yeah. I think the email industry is definitely been up to the task in evolving.
It's the most innovative
since the announcement. Yeah.
There's no MarTech. There's no part of MarTech landscape that's more innovative than email marketing. Not even close. And I defy anybody to tell me otherwise.
Definitely. All right. So that's a wrap from us in terms of email trends. Looking at the questions. We're getting those questions now. There's another one. What are some other email trends besides these that you have observed taking shape for 2022? Can you name one or two trends that you think could happen in the next year?
The one trend that I talked about in my sort of four vendor landscape trends is what I sense is potentially a changing of the guard, and by that I mean brand marketers and email marketers are much more likely to look at next gen platforms. And Tejas, you referred to them earlier, are much more likely to consider next gen platforms over what I would call legacy platforms than they have been up until recent years. And this is something that we've seen happen before, a sort of a change into the guard. It happened back around 2007, 2008. And I sense that happening again now. And it's not so much, we're not going to look at legacy, we're only going to look at next gen, or we're not going to look at next gen, we're only going to look at legacy. But brands making much smarter decisions about, I'm going to look at some legacy platforms, but I also want to look at some next gen, and I want to compare them head to head in my RFP. So again, that's a trend I see will continue into 2022 and beyond. And we're also going to begin to see sort of which of the next gens are going to emerge as the next big ESPs that one day will be legacy ESPs because they've been around for so long. Because the market can't support forever the number of new contenders that are and I think it's wonderful that there are so many ESPs available to choose from today versus 10 years ago. I mean, it stuns me how many viable options, if you're an enterprise or mid-market emailer, the number of ESPs that could theoretically handle your business has doubled probably in the last 10 years. And I think that's a great development. And that's part of the reason why it's the most innovative, a part of the MarTech stack. So that is another trend that I see that has started and continuing into 2022.
You still think that pricing is an issue when a marketer is trying to select, or a marketing manager or a CMO is trying to evaluate an ESP today? Because I think that was one of the questions that were raised before, on the OI blog thread as well, that, pricing was probably the first thing that they had in mind, rather than, whether they're next gen or their legacy. What do you think
pricing
about that?
is so low. Pricing is after several years of unbelievable price drops around 2012 to 2016, I can't go much lower. Pricing is in the work we do with brands in vendor selection. Pricing is rarely a major factor in the decision. Now, that could change. Because somebody coming in with there is still price that could give. But at this point, pricing is not a major. Everybody's sort of in the same place.
Okay, good to know that. Another question I had about loyalty programs with you. When I read your white blog, there were two types of relationships that you described. One was, loyalty could be either you have to stay in a relationship with that brand, or the second one was you want to stay in a relationship with that brand. So, the question is, how can email marketers listening to this conversation right now create a want to stay relationship through the email programs with their customers?
Good question. And it's easier for some brands than others. The want to stay in, again, the have to stay in is you can easily be flipped. I have to stay in my grocery store loyalty program in order to get the sale items that they have every week. Well, if another grocery store offers a loyalty program that offers even steeper discounts, bang, I'm gone. And so that's the have to stay in. I have to stay in it to get the discounts. But again, I'm highly susceptible to a better offer. Want to stay in is where there's components of that relationship. And again, an airline is a very easy one to use as an example. And I belong to the airlines program I belong to. The miles, I can get anywhere, and I like the miles, and that was the foundation of these programs. But it's the tiered levels of service that loyalty programs in certain categories can give you, where I can board early. I don't have to pay to check a bag. I get better seat selection. I get all of these things that.
Maybe try first class.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe you guys at Netcore. But it's again, it's I want to stay in because I like being treated like I matter. And it's the elements. So I guess that's really what if you can make your customers feel like they matter in whatever category you're in, that they matter. And because they matter, you're going to make their experience, which is such an overused phrase here, make their experience better. But if you can, my experience is a billion times better on the airline that I'm a loyalty program member of than any other airline. I'm not even close. I'm a nobody kicked to the back of the plane on every other airline. So, I mean, there is a huge difference in customer experience between my preferred airline and every other airline on the planet. Now, if I had Tejas money and I could be flying first class on Emirates, then it wouldn't matter. But I'm just a simple suburban boy, Tejas, and so I got to do with Coach.
I've never flown first class, by the way. Never done that. I'm an economy boy.
One day, both of us on Emirates. One day, maybe we'll get Abitab to spring for those tickets.
Definitely. Just one more question regarding interactivity in emails. I mean, I'm hearing so much about interactivity is going to be the next big thing in 2022 now because of Apple MPP. You need to get your customers to reply to your emails. You need to, get some kind of feedback in every one of your emails. What are some, or maybe one campaign that you have seen where you actually interacted with that email and you were happy to do so? And what did they do that was a bit different than the other brand emails that you get? Do you have
I
any?
think AMP's going to be a bust. Nothing. I mean, how hard is it to click on an email and go and click through an email? I've never felt AMP was going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I can't even think of an example where I got an email that was AMP and where I went whoa and could do something in the email. So at a minimum, Gartner has what they call their hype cycle, and at a minimum, I think AMP for email is in the what Gartner calls a trough of disillusionment, and I'm not sure it's ever going to get out of it. Again, my opinion only. I know other people would feel very differently, but that's my feeling on it.
But if you're not using AMP, you take away AMP from it. Can you still make your emails interactive? What are some of the ways that you can do it in order to get your customers engaged?
I can click on my email. It's already interactive. I can click. I can embed a video in it if I want. I know everybody says, "Oh, you can't embed videos. ISPs won't accept it." Again, this need to make emails interactive to me is completely unnecessary. Again, they're already interactive because I can click on them and go somewhere. That's the definition of interactivity. I don't have to do it within the email for it to be interactive.
Definitely. Okay. Well, just before we go, there's a short plugin from our end where we have a whole range of events, webinars, and podcasts under the umbrella term of For the Love of Emails. It's really become a huge hashtag now, and it's trending. So here's a plugin before I leave. Our podcast recently won the best email marketing podcast of 2021 by Webilla, the data enrichment company, and it was chosen by public vote involving thousands of email professionals and podcast listeners. So clearly, our podcast is the most loved one right now. I remember there's an episode by where Chris is himself a guest expert, and he talks about the steps to choose the right ESP, if I'm not wrong. And that's a really great episode as well. So we have some amazing email experts on our show always. And the host is, of course, a delivery expert, Matthew Wernard, a very well-known figure in the email industry. So you can tune into our podcast on netcocloud.com/resources/podcast, or you can search on it on Apple as well as Spotify. So go ahead and sign up for the podcast, and you'll receive some amazing email insights by experts just like Chris. So absolutely, yeah. Well, that's a wrap from our end. So the audience here, thanks a lot, everyone, for patiently listening to us this early morning or the night wherever you are in the globe right now.
Yep.
Thanks a lot for your thoughts on Email Trends 2022, Chris. It was a pleasure having you here. I
Thanks
hope
for having
this
me here.
Yep. I hope this conversation, enables the listeners to have a good look at the email programs and the changes that are coming up, so that they can plan better for the next year. Thanks everyone for joining us, and
Good morning,
be
good
safe.
night,
Happy,
and thanks, Tejas.
yeah, thank you. Happy holidays and happy new year. See you everyone.
True. Happy
Bye.
holidays. That's right.